Hello, this is CS Joseph with csjoseph.life doing another video. This video is a lecture on a type comparison as per subscriber request. Remember, when I'm doing these comparison videos, they're mostly just going to be based on subscriber requests. So if you want to see two types compared against each other, go ahead and leave it in the comment section and I'll add it to my schedule. Just be advised, I'll kind of choose them at random and release them at random times. So, because my schedule is like very large, I think at last count I have 352 videos in my schedule right now. So, trying to make sure I get them all. But I also want to make sure that you as the audience also gets to see videos that you actually request for. So, I am listening and we are getting through them. So, anyway. Today's we're going to be focusing on the INTJ versus the INTP, also known as the strategist versus the engineer. Both types are intellectuals. They're part of the NT, intuitive thinking temperament, according to Plato. I know everyone wants to talk about David Keirsey for some reason, but y'all have to figure out that David Keirsey got his source material from Plato, so I'm going to stick with Plato on this one. So anyway, with all that being said, let's review the Target whiteboard, because who doesn't like Target whiteboards? I love them apparently. So yeah, the INTJ versus the INTP. So the INTJ is direct responding movement. The INTP is informative responding control. So they're both responding. Responding means that they're both introverted. That's because they prefer people to go to them instead of initiating themselves. And there's a couple of reasons for that. For the INTJ, it's because they have that performance anxiety. They're insecure about giving other people a bad experience. That's why they can spend a lot of time thinking about sex instead of actually having sex, because they're insecure about initiating the sexual process with their partner, because they have that inner performance anxiety that they maintain. Unless, of course, they have absolute evidence and they can remember that evidence to the contrary, and then they'll aspire with their extroverted sensing, and that won't be an issue for them as they grow and mature. But for the most part, they have that performance anxiety, especially in the younger INTJs. INTPs, they have a similar insecurity, except it's not really performance anxiety. They're just afraid of making people feel bad. INTPs are very, very caring, even though they are oftentimes accused of being soulless and uncaring. But the INTP is super caring, and to the point where they're like really, they get into caregiving, caretaking, etc. And it can even lead them to becoming a doormat. And so, anyway, as a result of both of these insecurities, that's what makes these types responding. They prefer to respond to people instead of initiate, because they're afraid through their initiations that they're either going to give someone a bad experience, or the INTP, for example, instead of the INTJ, but the INTP, for example, will make someone like feel bad or something, or they wouldn't value what the INTP has to say, right? So that's where their insecurities exist. That's why they choose to be responding. So INTJ's movement, in fact, its ego is movement, its shadow is movement, and its subconscious is movement. Only its superego is control-based. So what this means, they're known as triple movement. There's only two types that are triple movement, the ENFP and the INTJ. Triple movement means they move fast. I mean, they are probably the ones that are driving the fastest on the road at all times. They make decisions with lightning speed. And the problem is, though, those decisions with lightning speed really kind of bite them in the ass, because INTJs have this problem where they can jump to conclusions very quickly. But then again, so do all NJs. So, because of that risk of jumping to conclusions, being triple movement can really bite them in the ass and really piss people off around them, because it's like, oh, hey, you know, wow, why did you make that decision without even, like, having a conversation with me, bro? Well, I felt like it would be the good thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it feels like it, right? But it may not actually be, like, what's reality or the truth, you know? Just because you INTJs feel it's good doesn't necessarily make it a good thing, doesn't mean that other people will think well of it. So, be careful. My advice to the INTJ is to do your best to be as patient as possible, which is super hard because that's like engaging your demons. But Instead of trying to rely on yourself to draw a source of patience, what you do is pair up with SI users who have tons of patience, so your extroverted sensing inferior can consume the introverted sensing of introverted sensors around there, and they are patient. The INTP with SI child is insanely patient all the time, whereas the INTJ is insanely impatient, right? And that's why they go well together. To be honest, NTJs need to be with NTPs. That is how compatibility works. NTJs need to be with NTPs. I know for some reason, like especially socionics, like thinks that people need to be with their subconscious. Like the INTJ has duality relationship with the ESFP, and that's the ideal compatibility. Yeah, no. Actually, I'm going to do everyone a favor and go out behind on the back lawn and light that on fire and burn it, because that's wrong. That's where socionics is 100% incorrect. Duality is not true and a complete waste of time, and I don't recommend having a relationship with your polar opposite. Good luck. And if you're in a relationship with your polar opposite, I'm so sorry. But Mr. C.S. Joseph, we make it work out. It's really great. And like, yes, I'm sure that every mature human being on the planet could have a relationship with everybody else, but it's not ideal, and you're not going to have a good time. I mean, you know, because at that point, it's like, ooh, I have extroverted sensing hero. Ooh, I have extroverted sensing inferior. So we're both committed to giving each other good experience. The problem is that the ESFP's like, well, I worry about the experience that I get. And the INTJ's like, well, I'm demonic about my experience that I get. So it's like they don't really care. So like in like a sexual relationship, that would just break down, and it's more like a debate about who's on top. Really? You really want to have a life like that? No. Stay away from duality, people. Like don't even waste your time with duality. Socionics is 100% incorrect about compatibility between the types. Let's move along from that, please. So, anyway, the INTP, all about being comfortable, and the SE inferior is trying to make that SI comfortable. So, INTJs aren't so much concerned about being comfortable as much as the INTPs are, but that's why INTJs seek to make INTPs comfortable, right? It's because they're going to all be comfortable and whatnot. So, anyway, INTPs, control-based, you know, movement. We talked about the movement here, but control, they go at their own pace. They take their jolly sweet time doing things. Progress cannot exist in the midst of chaos to the INTP, whereas the INTJ, progress cannot come without chaos. There sometimes needs to be chaos, or the INTJ is perfectly fine working in chaos, because it knows that through chaos it gets things moving, and then progress can come as a result. So two separate ideologies about movement and control, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Both types can get along with each other very well because they have that different interaction. As long as the INTP is like, well, hey, that's going to make me uncomfortable, the INTJ is like, oh, sorry for making you uncomfortable, right? So it's like not even a problem. Anyway, so let's dive into the cognitive functions. So INTJs have introverted intuition, hero. They always know about what they want, whereas the INTP like has no clue what they want. Well, actually, that's not true. They have NI critic, which basically means INTPs are so critical towards what they want that they just do not allow themselves to want anything. Why is that? Well, it's because they have any parent. Any parent can see into the wants of other people, and any parent is pessimistic, and it's very it is very responsible because it's like a parent function. Like parents are supposed to be responsible, right? And it's responsible with seeing what other people want, and it sees that other people are irresponsible with what they want. So the INTP will not allow itself to want anything because it does not want to be irresponsible with what it wants, because it sees everybody else in the world as being irresponsible with what they want, right? So because it's perceiving that irresponsibility, the anti-critic forces, mandates INTP desires, willpower to be critical and overly responsible, kind of like perfectionistic, basically. And that causes the INTP to not want things, and then they end up getting stagnant, they get stuck in relationships, they get stuck at jobs, they just get stuck in life. Especially if the SI child is comfortable where they are, the INTP will just accept. It'll accept everything. I'm here to tell you, INTPs, that drawing your self-worth from like the level of acceptance that you have in your life is a no-no. Like, you will fail at life if you allow yourself to get stagnant, and if you allow yourself to not grow because you're comfy, right? I mean, INTJs understand that. They understand that being comfy and can lead to that stagnation. But again, that's why INTJs exist, to help INTPs figure that out and get out of their rut, right? Don't get too comfortable. And it frustrates INTJs. They actually feel bad about themselves if they cannot get you, with their TE parent, to tell TI hero that, by the way, your thinking is incorrect. You need to grow up. You need to get out of that rut. You need to get out of that relationship. You need to get out of that bad job. You need to get out of that abusive situation, right? So you got to be careful about that. But then again, INTPs end up having this interesting perspective of, well, if I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime, right? Well, good job on those INTPs, because then they have self-respect, and I love that about them. Like, there's a story about an INTP coworker that I had, that when he was a little child, his sibling broke a window in the house, and then when Daddy came home, his sibling blamed the INTP friend of mine for breaking the window, and his daddy took his belt off and beat him very hard over it. So as soon as the beating was over, do you know what my INTP friend did? He went over and broke another window, and he looked at his father in the eye and said, if I want to do the time, I may as well do the crime. Yeah. Like, seriously, guys, don't be morons when it comes to parenting your children. Like, listen to them. I mean, stop thinking that children are just lying to you at all times. Stop assuming, stop jumping to conclusions. Especially like when NJs jump to conclusions. Don't do it. I wonder if my INTP's friend's father was an NJ. So, back to the ego. So, TI hero, all about logic. No type other than maybe the ISTP can outthink the INTP. They're all like super insane logical mastery. Like Steve Wozniak, he's an INTP. And by the way, to all those people who think Steve Wozniak is an ENTP, I laugh at you. Come on, guys. That's ridiculous. No, he's behind the scenes. You know, behind the scenes, he's not a starter type like I am. He's not an ENTP like I am. He's an INTP. I mean, Steve Jobs is the ENTP. Like, seriously, Steve Jobs provided the vision because ENTPs are visionaries and INTPs are the engineers, and the INTP built it. So that basically means that Steve Jobs designed the shit and Wozniak built it. That's how we have Apple. That's why I'm filming on this iPhone right now. Congratulations. Like, that's how it works. Oh, no, man, but Woz is an ENTP. No, he's not. No. Stop mistyping, everybody. Please, stop. Learn cognitive functions. And then all of a sudden we'll have a much better world because people aren't mistyping themselves or each other. Anyway. So, introvert intuition, hero, they're all about what they want. They're all about what they think. So the parent functions, we talked about responsible extrovert intuition already, seeing that other people are being irresponsible with what they want. And the extroverted thinking is all about being responsible with other people think. So based on that, INTJs are insanely good at research. So also are INTPs because they have TE nemesis, but not like the INTJ. When the INTJ teams up with the INTP, they can become this insane force to be reckoned with, because the INTJ is able to provide all this insanely good research, and then the TI hero of the INTP and the NE parent is able to process that data rapidly quick and develop an even better solution. On their own, INTPs are amazing at architecting solutions to problems and solving problems, but you combine that with the research and strategy components of the INTJ, you literally have an engine that is unstoppable, an unstoppable intellectual engine that will literally plow through any problem and solve issues. Like, if these two got together, they could literally cure cancer. Like, I'm serious. Like, it could happen. And in some cases, people claim it has happened, but, you know, I don't know anything about that. What I do know is that when these two get together, anything is possible. As with most types, like when NTJs get with NTPs or NFPs get with NFJs, like, magic happens. Like, the world changes when that happens. So I highly recommend finding these pairings and having them, because you literally can accomplish anything if you just put your mind to it. And INTJs and INTPs are no exception to the rule. Anyway, so the parent function is all about data. It's rationale. It's all about making decisions, finding all the information, the reference points, the statistics, reading the graphs, etc., doing the research. Extrovert intuition is their parent over here. We already talked about that. So introverted sensing child is all about being comfortable. And they go well together because SE likes to make SIs super comfy. Introverted sensing just needs to be comfortable all the time. It also lets the INTP just explore. You know, because it's the P type, it's more focused on exploration. It's all about, you know, and INTPs just explore everything. They, like little kids, it's kind of fun, actually. Like, I remember my INTP friend telling me about this great time he had on Star Trek Online, right? And honestly, I don't really care that much about Star Trek Online, but the way he would just tell the story just made Star Trek Online sound like literally the best thing ever. And I was like, wow. And that's just the perspective of the little kid, the INTP SI child. It just wants to have every possible experience. But the INTJ wants to give every possible experience to the INTP, etc. So, also, the SE inferior is insecure about giving other people like a bad experience, which is why SI child's cool, because SI child's like really innocent about it, so it's not going to make SE inferior feel bad about itself or get afraid, so they go together pretty well there. FE inferior is insecure about making people feel good. Well, there's compatibility here because they're very innocent with how they feel, because INTJs have this moral compass about them. I mean, they lack people awareness, they lack that ethical awareness because of FE trickster, but the INTP makes up for that, and the INTP is able to cover all the social bases for the INTJ. So all the social data that the INTJ is not keeping track of, the INTP is tracking. So when they're like together, they can be like the dynamic duo, essentially. You know, the INTP, like the INTJ is like super secretly good at dancing, and they're about to hit the dance floor, and the INTP knows that like I'm bad at the dance floor, and the INTJ is like, don't worry, I got your back, I'll lead, and then you can be an amazing dancer because I'm here with you. And then the INTP is like, okay, well hold on, it's not socially acceptable for us to dance right now, and the INTJ is like, oh okay, yeah, I'll wait. You see what I'm saying? Like they cover each other's backs this way, and because that extroverted feeling. That insecurity versus aspirational capability, INTP can master, over time, can master social behavior, making the INTJ more comfortable in the social space because they have FE trickster, right? So make sure that, you know, that you understand that the moral compass is important. They're very moral, but these people lack morals. INTPs completely lack morals in a lot of cases, but the moral compass comes in and helps that problem. So then that FE has less security or insecurity. Extroverted feeling is able to absorb the morals of the INTJ and then start behaving ethically themselves, essentially. But they're also aware of all the social rules, all the social cues, all the social norms, all the social expectations in a situation as well, which makes them very nice to go with the INTJ because they're just unaware of that. Yet they have moral behavior. It's just the difference between ethics and morals. INTJs are moral, and INTPs are ethical. That's the difference. INTJs are rational. INTPs are logical. That's the difference. INTPs are more focused on metaphysics and the past memory, whereas INTJs are focused on the concrete right now, physics, the what is. INTPs are about the what if. INTJs are all about what they want now, what they will want tomorrow. INTPs are like, well, what does everyone want? What do you want, Mr. INTJ, right? What do you want? What if, right? That's really the difference between the two. It's not like this whole thing where it's like, oh, hey, I'm very INTP today, even though I'm an INTJ. And I'm like, wow, that was taught by the MBTI people, like, I don't know, 15 years ago? It's 2018. No, the science has definitely developed a lot since then, and that's not how it works. Your letters don't change. In fact, do us all a favor and don't pay any attention to the letters. I mean, have I actually really talked about the letters on this channel? Not really, because the letters don't matter. Why do I use the letters? Well, because that's what people are used to in terms of the little titles on the 16 archetypes. Otherwise, I wouldn't care and I wouldn't be using the letters because the letters just don't mean that much. They really don't. Get your head out of the letters and get your head in the cognitive functions, and then we can have a conversation. I think that would be the most useful thing to do, because once people start really understanding each other, then the world can change for the better. Anyway, so let's talk about the ENTP shadow and the ENTJ shadow. ENTJ shadow worries that everyone else in the world is stupid, but because the INTJ is so focused on being correct in its own right, the INTJ is so critical towards their own intelligence, so critical about their own sense of logic, that when they do all their research with their TE parent, it's more like, oh crap, I need to learn as much as possible about this, and they have all these reference points, but they still have to verify and verify and re-verify, and guess what? Verify more, and even beyond that, verify even more that they're correct about something, and once they do, then they absolutely believe it themselves. So the INTP, the fifth function is where a person's worry exists, the fourth function is where a person's fear exists, but for worry's sake, they worry that other people are stupid. Well, the INTP doesn't have to worry about the INTJ being stupid, because the INTP knows already that the INTJ puts so much effort into what it thinks, so that worry kind of goes away, right? In the same way that the INTJ is worried about people having bad intentions, worried about people being disloyal to them, worried about people backstabbing them at one point in time. Well, the INTP just doesn't let themselves want anything. They're so critical towards what they want. And it's like, yeah, I don't ever want to backstab you because I don't let myself want things anyway. And the INTJ is like, oh, thank God, I don't have to be paranoid around you anymore because I'm really paranoid around everyone else because you never know, man. People change their opinion on a whim about me. And then the INTP is like, no, they don't. People don't change opinions on a whim. I sure don't change opinions on a whim because I have SI child and FE inferior. Why would I change my opinion about you on a whim? Especially since I remember every amazing thing you've ever done for me, Mr. INTJ. Well, the INTJ is like, well, but people always screw me over at one point in time. It's just inevitable. So I always have to keep you at arm's length. And they're like, no, you don't, Mr. INTJ, because I, as the INTP, have always been loyal to you. I've always done these good things for you, and I remember every good experience you've ever given me to the point where you've always etched my soul forever. And because I'm aware of everything you've done for me, that means I'm always going to be loyal to you. So you never have to worry about me screwing you over one day. And in fact, I'm kind of offended that you think I will. Oh, yeah, my bad. That's basically how it works between those types. The INTJ is super comfortable around the INTP because the INTP is super loyal, so that takes that worry away because they know the INTP doesn't allow themselves to want things, and the INTP has that SI child, which is always super comfortable. Remember, SI child, that thing that keeps INTPs in the state of potential stagnation? That potential stagnation, that's a positive thing because that makes the INTJ feel better because the INTJ doesn't have to worry about being so paranoid around the INTP backstabbing them. Awesome. That's how that works. So, we talked about expert intuition, we talked about TI critic, we talked about FE trickster with their lack of social awareness. We talked about, we haven't talked about introverted sensing demon yet. Don't ask the INTJ what they're experiencing. They only care about the experience you're having. And guess what? INTPs, they're trickster. They're not aware of the physical environment. They're not aware of what other people are doing. They're only aware of what they are doing themselves, right? So because the INTP is just not aware, I mean, this is what causes INTPs to drop things. Like they drop things or they dress interestingly. Like they're like super vanilla. I mean INTPs, their nickname is Yoplait, right? Yoplait yogurt. White. Nothing. Milk toast, right? And it's because that's especially bad when INTPs are immature, but luckily INTJs exist and can tell the INTP that, you know, with their extroverted sensing, because INTJs, because they're extroverted sensing inferior, it can turn into aspirational, and then the INTJs can be like literally the best dressed person you've ever met. Super well dressed, have superly good fashion sense as they get older, as they mature, and then they could use their SE inferior to teach SI child of the INTP to, in compensation for the lack of extroverted sensing, because they have no fashion sense. So let's be honest, the INTJ can actually teach SI child how to have fashion sense. And then the INTP can mimic that fashion sense with extroverted intuition parent and SI child, which creates mimicry, and they're able to mimic positive fashion, all because of the INTJ's tutelage. So I highly recommend INTPs listen to your INTJs giving you fashion advice. They know what they're doing. Even though they're afraid about it sometimes, as they get older, they aspire, and then they really have mastery over fashion. Listen to them. Also, make sure you're disciplined and get into routines, INTPs, so that you don't drop things or destroy things in the physical environment, because I know you're so focused on like what you yourself are doing that you're not really aware of what's happening in the physical environment, right? And that could be a problem. But luckily INTJs can teach you techniques so that you have a better experience in the physical environment that you're in, and that's what INTJs exist to do, right? So, and then there's FI demon. So the demon functions are interesting. The demon functions really only engage, and then you need to get into their superegos right here and here. So like this is the ISFJ superego, where the INTJ just elects himself judge, jury, and executioner, and lay down the hammer of justice on anyone that's ever been disloyal to them, because I'm loyal and you've been disloyal to me, so that's not fair, so I'm going to stab you until you die because you're disloyal to me, and then throw you into the pit of despair. Or You know, the INTP's like, oh, I've been so caring for you with my effing fury, and you obviously don't give me any recognition. You don't recognize me. I'm just a doormat to you. I can't take this anymore. So I'm going to craft that amazing, you know, I'm going to craft this huge hammer, my own version of Mjolnir, and I'm going to beat you with it, you know, until you realize how much I care about you. Like, literally, the beatings will continue until morale improves was definitely written by an INTP, because ISFP, demon, parasite, superego. Great. Oh, but that's super justice, man. Oh, but that, you know, I've been really caring. So you gotta watch out for that, guys. Like, always make sure, you know, the INTP, you give them recognition. Tell them that they make you feel good. And tell them thank you for all the warnings that they give you with expert intuition. They could see something bad coming before you do. They'll warn you about it. Listen to them. And don't do it. And give them recognition for all of their caring. You know, and on this side, always thank an INTJ for giving you a good experience. They're always trying to show you like this amazing wooden bowl they just crafted in their shop or something. And it's like, huh, you know, I just had that happen to me the other day on Facebook. An INTJ showed me their wooden bowl that they made. It was really dope. I actually really think it was awesome. So thank the INTJ for giving you a good experience. Thank the INTJ for helping you think and keeping you organized and keeping you honest. That's what TE parent is there for, keeping you honest. INTJs have all the good, best intentions in the world for you, so be willing to accept that from them. They just want to make you comfortable. They just want to give you a good experience. They want to continue to do good, FI child, good things for you, SE inferior. They want to give you a good experience so that you remember them, so that your soul is etched, so you remember the INTJ, and then you think highly of them because you remember them and you never forget them. Forgetting an INTJ, forgetting about an INTJ, not communicating with them, not keeping them in the know, is like the biggest, most easiest way to piss them off, and it causes them to feel like you are being disloyal to them, which engages their SI demon, which causes the ISFJ superego to come out. Don't do it. Do not do that. Please. INTJs are amazing people, so are INTPs. Give them what they need, and they will give you what you want, and vice versa. So, as you can tell, these two types are actually very different. It's not about, oh, I'm more P today than I am J, and then tomorrow I'm more J than I am P. And it's like, no, no, no. It just makes me want to go all Homer Simpson on Bart Simpson, if you know what I mean. I can't do that. No, guys, that's not how this works. Get your head out of that and get your head into the cognitive functions, because cognitive functions are everything. The four sides of the mind, right? So ego, subconscious, shadow, superego, and both these types have it. And you can see how different these are. Like they're not really the same at all. The only similarities they have is that they're really just introverted, and they're intellectuals. That's it. That's the only similarity they have. Every other component about them is different, right down to their interaction style. You know, ooh, they have the same temperament. Ooh, and they're both introverted. Ooh, that's it. Otherwise, these two types are completely different. These guys are behind the scenes. They need to be able to disengage, right? Completely like the INTP is in a social situation and they just they've lost all their energy, and similar to the INTJ, they need that solitude, so they're just going to dip out, sit in the corner, play on their phone, some games on their phone, and then after they've done it for a half hour, they feel energized again, then they go back to the social situation and re-engage, you know? And of course, the INTJ and the INTP both show up to the party or whatever, then they're there, and it's probably because the INTP dragged the INTJ there, to be honest, because it's our social duty to do that, and people want us there, so it's our social duty to go, and I think we should go. I think we would want to go. And then the INTJ is like, I'm not sure I want to go, but I want to give you a good experience, and I want you to stay thinking highly of me, and maybe other people there think highly of me, and I want people to think good of me, so yeah, I'm gonna go, so let's go. And then they both show up, and they both get drained by the social situation, because it's three's a crowd, because, you know, it's introverted if it's one or two people, and it's extroverted if it's three or more, right? And both of them are out of energy, and they both look at each other, and it's like, okay, time to dip out, and they do, and they dip out from the social situation, and then they go home together, and it's no problem, you know. Just be aware of that, right? Let these two types have their solitude. They need solitude in that way because they're both introverted, right? And they're both intellectuals, so realize that they're going to just be constantly abstracting ideas. That's how they work. That's how intellectuals roll, you know. Oh, but they're the thinkers, or they're the rationalists. No, all you David Keirsey acolytes, it's not rationalists. I don't understand why you guys think the NT temperament has anything to do with rationale. It doesn't. Why? Because the INTP is a logical logistician. They're not about rationale. The INTJ is about rationale. So if you have someone who's logical, like an INTP, and ENTPs too, and you have someone like rationale, an INTJ or an ENTJ, that would make the NTs half rational and half logical. So what business do we have being all like David Keirsey and naming the NTs the rationalists? Yeah, no, stop it. No, that's not even real. Don't even do that. Like, no. Plato called them the thinkers, right? But I'm sorry, like, even an INFJ is considered a thinker, like, majorly so. Or same with an ISFJ, right? But they're F. Yeah, they're F, but they have TI child, so that makes them thinking primary, so they're thinkers. Again, the letters don't matter that much, and Keirsey's version of the temperaments are not actually accurate or true, and I'm sorry, I won't have anything to do with it anymore. So that's why I call that temperament the intellectuals. So anyway, I think that just about covers INTJs versus INTPs. Very different, not so similar as much as everyone thinks, and letters don't really matter that much. I only use the 4 letters from the MBTI as labels for the 16 archetypes. In reality, the letters just don't matter that much to me. And, you know, when you have someone like an INTJ who's focused on finishing everything all the time because they see it through, or you have someone who's behind the scenes with their interaction style because you're an INTP, they're very different. They're not actually as similar as people think. So, anyway, if you found this video educational or helpful or insightful in any way, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the page. That would be awesome. If you have any requests for additional type comparison videos, please leave it in the comment section and I will add it to the schedule. If you have any interesting stories about INTJ or INTP interaction or any questions thereof, leave in the comment section as well, and I will read all of them because I read 100% of every comment on this channel. Sometimes it could take me an hour or 2 a day, but I don't care. I love you guys that much that I am paying attention to literally everything. So, cool. I think that just about does it. So, I'll see you guys tonight.